When Steve Borthwick took over the England coaching job at the end of 2022, he had a pretty massive challenge ahead of him. And in a very short period of time, he's been able to turn this team into one of the best up-and-coming teams in world rugby. The reason for me making this video is the fact that I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on this English team. Not just for the upcoming tour, but also in general. The first Six Nations under Borthwick was quite underwhelming. They started with a 29-23 defeat to Scotland, and then they also had that massive record-breaking loss to France. They also lost to Fiji right before the World Cup as well. However, in the World Cup, England were taking a very positive turn, as they had that very good win over Argentina, and in their semi-final against South Africa, they really pushed the eventual winners to the limit. And in this year's Six Nations, I thought that England looked really solid. They had that big win over Ireland, and they also came very, very close to beating France. When we look at England's performances overall, they seem to be getting better and better and better. Now, they are by no means a complete team yet. They're still in this weird position where they can have these hiccups once in a while, but when they're good, like for example against Japan, they look nearly unstoppable. And that's because Steve Borthwick is a very good coach and he understands what makes a winning rugby team. England are extremely well conditioned and they are extremely physical. The difference between this English team and Eddie Jones's English team is this English team just has a lot more grunt to it. It seems like these players are not afraid to go into the trenches to really make life difficult for their opponents. Whereas Eddie Jones's team was a bit more focused on flair and focused on showing off and trying to score amazing tries. Steve Borthwick has gone back to the basics, and it is giving them an exceptional platform from which they can grow. If there's a word that I can use for this English team, it's tough. They look really tough when they play. But that's not only where they're getting better. In their recent games, I've seen a lot more coordination and a lot of smart play from them, specifically during the kicking and territory game. One of the key features of this English team is the fact that they are really good at competing in the air. Their box kicks, and then their chases, and then their competition in the air is really good, and it allows them to march teams back effectively. Combine that with the fact that Felix Jones has been brought in to completely change England's defensive system, and you've got a really exciting team that is building something special, I feel. An interesting stat is that they only had an 81% tackle success rate against Japan, but they only conceded 2 tries. And this is that very high risk, very aggressive defensive system coming into play that is not unlike the Springboks. So while this is all good and they're doing the basics well, I think that they're also building something really special on attack. Against Japan, for example, they had the worst discipline and their set-piece stats also weren't great, but they scored 53 points. When this team is playing well on the day, they can score a lot of tries. And we saw that in that Irish test as well. England didn't have a ton of attacking opportunities in that game, but they made the most of it. And this brings me to my main point in this video. You should be excited for this English tour of New Zealand that is coming up. While the Irish tour of South Africa is probably the most important one, this one is not far behind. And it is going to be absolutely epic, I feel. I've seen a lot of people claim that England don't really have a shot against the All Blacks, and I don't think that's true at all. I think that they do have a shot. Now, I'm not saying that they are the favorites or anything. I think they are underdogs, but I think it's only slight underdogs. It's not like England only has a 20% chance to take the series. Now, of course, this is the All Blacks. We could be seeing them absolutely thrash England, but I think it's very unlikely. I think we're going to see 2 very close games. And let's not forget that the All Blacks are also in a bit of a rebuilding phase. Not a massive rebuilding phase, but new coach, a couple of new faces, so they're not going to be as good as they were in that Rugby World Cup final. I would actually back England to draw this series, if I'm being honest. And this is just a little bit of a personal belief, but I do feel that England are going to be on par with some of the best sides in the world pretty soon, sooner rather than later. Thank you so much for watching. I wanted to make this video because I thought that England were getting a lot of shit thrown their way unnecessarily, when in reality they're actually a really good team. They're a team that's building something special, and they still have a lot of room to grow, I feel. As always, let me know if you agree or disagree with anything that I said, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.